gesture of peace offering. Bradford's expression remained stony, unyielding. Well, I suppose I could try, for Victoria's sake. Well, I think that the Jack started trying to find common ground, a point of connection. Bradford cut him off, his voice laced with a possessive pride that bordered on obsession. You know, my daughter means a lot to me. I was both mother and father to her since she was an infant. Jack, ever the one to diffuse tension with humor, couldn't resist the quip, a fleeting moment of his usual Well, you must have had a tremendous clothing bill. He immediately regretted the remark as Bradford's eyes narrowed, a cold glint in their depths. Oh, say nothing of the weird people. Mother and father. Sorry, he mumbled, a quick apology. Bradford, to Jack's surprise, offered a faint, humorless smile, a fleeting crack in his formidable facade. No, that was very amusing. He paused, then continued, his voice regaining its serious, almost somber tone. As I was saying, Victoria was always my favorite. Well, I thought Vicky was an only child, Jack interjected, genuinely confused by the statement. I meant between her and her mother, but she left me, you know. Bradford's voice held a note of long-held resentment, a bitterness that had clearly festered over the years. Well, you know, kids do grow up, Jack tried to offer comfort, misunderstanding the context again. I meant her mother, Bradford clarified, a sigh escaping him, laden with the weight of past hurts. I always had such high hopes for Victoria. He paused, his gaze distant, lost in memories. Well. Sir, I really don't think Vicky's doing too badly, Jack said, feeling a compelling need to defend Vicky's choices, to stand up for her. No, I mean with her job, Bradford corrected, his tone dismissive, as if Vicky's current accomplishments were insignificant. Oh, you mean because of the promotion they offered her? Jack's brow furrowed, a flicker of concern crossing his face. He hadn't heard about any promotion. What promotion? Bradford looked genuinely surprised, his carefully constructed facade momentarily cracking. She didn't tell you? No. Oh, well. It's not important now. She's going to turn it down, Bradford said, a subtle triumph in his voice, a hint of satisfaction in his eyes. Too bad, though. She's been working so hard for it these past 2 years. Jack felt a jolt of alarm, a cold dread creeping into his stomach. Vicky, turning down a promotion she'd worked so diligently for. It sounded utterly unlike her, a betrayal of her ambitious spirit. Then why is she going to turn it down? Bradford leaned back, a smug expression spreading across his face, a look of profound sadness. Well, it would mean moving to Houston, and that could cause problems between us. Well, why didn't she say anything? Jack asked, a knot of unease tightening in his stomach. I guess she didn't want to make you feel guilty. Bradford's eyes held a challenge, a silent dare. You must have more in the ball than I thought, to make her give up something that she wanted so badly. Just then, Vicky emerged from the bedroom, transformed. She wore a soft, flowing dress that highlighted her graceful figure, her hair falling loosely around her shoulders, framing her exquisite features. She looked radiant, but her smile faltered slightly as she saw the intense, unspoken battle raging between the two men. Hi, Dolly. How are you? Bradford's voice instantly softened, his stern facade melting away like ice in the sun as he greeted his daughter, a possessive tenderness in his tone. I'm just fine. Has Jack been entertaining you? Vicky asked, her gaze darting between them, sensing the palpable, underlying tension. No. Jack's voice was flat, devoid of its usual warmth. He turned to Vicky, his expression a mixture of hurt and confusion, a silent question in his eyes. Excuse me, why didn't you mention anything to me about that job offer in Houston? Vicky's eyes widened, a flicker of panic in them as she shot a quick, desperate glance at her father. Because it wasn't important. I'm going to turn it down. Well, shouldn't you at least consider it? Jack pressed, his concern for her well-being and her future outweighing his own feelings of being kept in the dark. I already did. And I'm going to turn it down. Her voice was firm, resolute, but her gaze was still on her father, as if seeking his unspoken approval, a subtle, ingrained habit. Jack felt a sharp pang of disappointment, a dawning realization that he might unwittingly be standing in the way of her ambition, her potential. Oh, well, are you sure, though, you're doing the right thing? Vicky turned to him fully, her brow furrowed, a hint of frustration in her eyes. Well, Jack, do you want me to take the job? Well, no. I mean, you should do what's right for you. He struggled to articulate his complex thoughts, caught between his desire to have her near and his unwavering belief in her right to pursue her dreams, to forge her own path. But Jack, if I move to Houston, we'll never see each other. Her voice was laced with a desperate plea, a raw vulnerability. We'd still have weekends and holidays. He tried to sound optimistic, to infuse his voice with a hope he didn't quite feel, but even to his own ears, it sounded hollow, insufficient. Weekends and holidays. Vicky's voice rose, a hint of frustration creeping in, a rising tide of exasperation. You know, we really don't see that much of each other as it is. You're flying around all the time. I work all hours. Jack, Vicky started, trying to explain her perspective, her own struggles. But Jack, consumed by his own anxieties, interrupted, his voice earnest, filled with genuine concern. Vicky, what I'm trying to say is I want you to do what's best for you. He truly meant it, even if it meant a future without her, a future he dreaded. I will. Vicky's gaze hardened, a decision forming in her eyes, a quiet resolve settling over her features. She turned to her father, her voice flat. Dad, could you give me a lift home? Now, Jack's heart sank, a leaden weight in his chest. Wait a minute. I thought we were going to do something. He felt a desperate urge to stop her, to understand what had just transpired between them, what had caused this sudden shift. I'm sorry. I just didn't realize how tired I was. Her voice was devoid of emotion, distant, a stark contrast to the warmth it had held moments before. It was a dismissal, a finality he couldn't ignore. Well, we could do something, shall we? Jack pleaded, trying one last time to salvage the evening, the relationship, to pull her back from the precipice. Vicky, thank you for a very pleasant evening. Jack, her words were polite, formal, a stark contrast to their usual, easy banter, their shared intimacy. It was a definitive goodbye. Vicky, hey listen, I'll call you tomorrow, okay? He tried, a desperate hope clinging to his voice, a fragile thread of connection. Okay, but if I'm not home, I'll call you. She avoided his gaze, her hand already on her father's arm, pulling him towards the door, a silent retreat. Just as they were about to leave, Janet burst out of her bedroom, her face alight with excitement, oblivious to the emotional wreckage she was stepping into. Terry, Jack, excuse me. She paused, seeing Vicky and her father by the door, sensing the strained atmosphere. Hi, Vicky. She turned back to Jack, her excitement bubbling over. She noticed the strained silence, the rigid postures, the unspoken tension. I hope I'm not interrupting anything. No, Janet, it's okay. I was just leaving. Vicky's voice was cool, distant, a finality in its tone. She glanced at Jack one last time, a flicker of unreadable emotion in her eyes, before she and her father exited the apartment, leaving a profound silence in their wake. Janet looked from the closed door to Jack, her excitement replaced by a wave of concern. Jack, what happened? He stared at the door, a hollow ache spreading through his chest, a crushing weight of loss. He managed, his voice barely a whisper, a strained, almost inaudible sound. Well, it's so early. Where's Vicky going? Jack closed his eyes, the image of her leaving etched in his mind, a painful, indelible mark. To Houston. The apartment, once filled with the cheerful chaos of wedding preparations, now felt heavy with an unspoken sorrow, a lingering cloud of sadness. Janet, usually so bubbly, moved with a subdued air, her usual effervescence dimmed. Terry, always observant, kept glancing at Jack, a worried frown etched on her face, a silent question in her eyes. That's good. Let me see. A little higher. Jack, Terry instructed, trying to direct him as they struggled to move a bulky, vintage organ into position. It was a loan from a local church for the apartment wedding, and it weighed a ton, its heavy presence mirroring the emotional weight in the room. Jack, however, was miles away, his mind replaying Vicky's departure, the coldness in her voice,